Bill Heck, welcome to An Actor Despairs. How are you doing, man?
I'm well, Ryan. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. It's better now seeing you. This is my first episode in 2 months. I've kind of been through a little bit of an ordeal. My dog got lost, and
Oh shit!
yeah,
Sorry to hear that.
and for 8 weeks, and we found him on Sunday. So I've been dark through then, and I'm
That's
I'm
incredible.
I'm excited to announce that happy endings do happen outside of Hollywood. So yeah,
Amen. Do you
yeah.
have any idea what his little 2 month story is?
He's got some scars and he was pretty dirty, but he's a Shiba Inu, which are they're 30% wolves.
Right.
And it seems like he just survived on his own. We have no idea how. And it
That's
just,
incredible.
oh, I can't tell you how good it feels having him back, man.
God,
But
I'm sure.
yeah, but we're here to talk
Fantastic.
about you,
For
man. It's
you.
good to have you
Oh, wow.
here.
I'd
Yeah.
rather hear about your pup.
But man, dude, I'm so impressed with your career. Rachel Brosnahan's a friend, so that's where I first
Nice.
discovered you. And
Right on. She's
I'm
great.
NYU as well, and I know you're NYU. And man, your roster of like credits is incredible. You're in such a wonderful position. Like I'm so excited to see everything that's to come and everything that you've done. Like the leftovers, like dude, your resume is insane. Like I mean, it must be
That's
so.
kind.
I'm just so proud of you, man. Like you're
Thanks, man.
doing the thing, man, and this, I know we did last summer so rad. I know we're here to talk about it, but I'm excited to see everything that's come next, man, because we got to get you on the stage, dude. Like now that it's back.
I miss it. It's been a
Yeah,
while. I know.
yeah, yeah.
No, that's kind. I've been very fortunate. Yeah.
But man, if it's cool with you, let's start at the beginning. Where did you grow up?
I was born in Phoenix, Arizona.
No
Um,
way.
yes, and when I was 10, my family moved to back to the Chicago suburbs where my folks are originally from. So I got a nice little contrast in climate
So how
in my
long were you
developmental years.
in Phoenix for?
10 years, give or take.
Okay. My
Yeah.
dad's from Elgin.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, we're a
Yeah.
little further north. But do you have family? Do you go out there much?
All my family's still there, but family, dude. I don't really go there that often. But yeah,
Fair
the
enough.
Midwest is a little too cold for me anyway. Not that New York winters are that much easier, but yeah, I
Right,
did
right.
spend a lot of my childhood there.
Oh, no, that's fantastic.
Naperville and going to all the
Yes, for
yeah, man,
sure.
that's awesome.
Wow.
So
Nice.
talk to me. Like what do your parents do? Were they in the arts at all?
Not directly. My mom did plays in high school and stuff, and my aunt, my mother's sister, and her husband are professional actors in Indianapolis,
Oh,
professional
nice.
regional actors. And some aunts that sang, and so I was exposed to the arts to a certain degree, but it wasn't until pretty late into my adolescence that I got into it myself.
Wow.
uh, yeah, I was sort of sort of forced into it. Um, my I had there was like a divorce in the family, and there was some
Ah,
some difficult years growing up, and
same. So I get say no
yeah,
more.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. I mean, I have loving parents. It wasn't anything um, Hollywood spectacular in terms of the destruction of a family, but hard enough. And
Sorry,
my
man.
no, no,
Yeah, yeah,
we're good. It made me who I am, right?
yeah.
And they're both happily remarried to lovely people. But
Another happy ending. Love it.
there
Yeah,
you
yeah.
go. I had some pretty unhappy years there, especially going into high school. Kind of, I'd always been like a good student and a pretty friendly kid, and I started withdrawing and getting morose, and like
The
talking
brooding teen
back.
angst,
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
but even that was sort of pretty tame. I
yeah,
wasn't like smoking behind the school or anything.
yeah.
I just pouted and cursed on occasion.
Did you get a leather
But
jacket? That's the first step, dude.
no, I was not nearly. I was just, I was nowhere near like up to date on my fashion, which is truth that remains to this day.
I think
But
you're killing it today, man. Great outfit.
yeah, oh, that's very
Yeah.
kind. But boy, I was confused on a lot of fronts back then. In
And
any case,
this is Chicago, just so we
the
can.
Chicago, yeah, Libertyville High School.
And what
Uh,
was that like? Because like high school is such a it's the pinnacle of weirdness. You're who you are from 14 when you go into 18 at the end, you're like 37 different people by the end of it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
And
so
yeah.
having those
Yeah.
certain, I'm just like, you're trying to find yourself literally while you're the things that your anchors are crumbling. So how did you buoy yourself?
Uh, well, for a while I didn't. For a while I was like a latchkey kid, and I would, read horror novels instead of doing my schoolwork and all that sort of shit. Um,
Nice.
that's actually how I got in. My mom was like, just knew that I was unhappy, and knew my grades were coming down. I was being like a bit of a dick in the home, and so she's like, well, you gotta join an extracurricular activity, something to pull you out. And I was like, oh god. So I had played soccer through 8th grade, and went to try out for the high school team, but it had been a few years. My cleats didn't fit me anymore,
Oh, wow.
and we didn't really have much money at that time. And so my mom said, well, if you make the team, we'll get you new cleats. So I went to the first day of tryouts in my old cleats, and at the end of the day, my mom picked me up in her minivan, and I pulled off my shoes, and both my large toenails fell out because
Oh
they
my
had been
God.
traumatized. And so I was essentially hobbled and couldn't complete the remaining 2 days of soccer tryouts. So my mom was like, well, you still gotta sign up for some extracurricular activity. And I was like, fine, try out for the fucking musical. and I did. And
You literally, you're not like you literally tried out for the.
yeah. My mom. I got into acting because my mom made me.
That's amazing, dude.
Yeah.
That's this is the first with this podcast. That's so rad.
No, and she did me a great service. It was Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street.
Oh, were you Sweeney?
No, man, that was my very one of my best friends, Nathan Johnson, who's a beautiful actor and professor and director, and I was Judge Turpin. So it was this old crotchety evil man. I got to like work through all my darkness in this very enjoyable way. Found a community, found a kind of a new purpose, and a sense of belonging. It completely turned me around, and so I'm indebted to my mother for that on many fronts.
I'm so curious because like not only is that just so badass and brave, but like the musical element. Myself, I can't sing. Did you go in knowing you could sing, or did you not know if you could sing?
I mean, my family was relatively musical. I started playing the piano at like 4.5, and I haven't kept up with it much, but I can still sit down. So music was in the family. My mother plays the piano. My father plays guitar a bit. My aunts were professional singers, I think I mentioned. So I actually had one of my aunts, my Aunt Joan Lombardi. She worked with me for about a week before going up. Once I sort of got over the fact that I had to do something, I decided to go for it.
Yeah.
And so she worked with me and got the song going, and it worked out.
That's so beautiful, man. And how quickly into this, rehearsal production did you start to realize like, fuck, I like this,
Yeah, it was pretty immediate.
Wow.
And it was certainly because that was my junior year of high school. And by then you're starting to consider colleges and what you want to do. So I was going on a few tours and stuff. And I was like, oh, marine biology or God knows, because it would be fun to go to school in Florida, sort of as far along as I had got. And then this came along and something felt like home. And I started to ask the question of, is it like how genuinely insane is it to consider this as an actual option?
Yeah.
And I remember sitting in the car. I was going to park with this girl that I was seeing at the time. There was like the suburb we were in was by like an industrial office complex.
Yeah.
Me and this girl would like go park there after hours and have fun. And
this is very 1950s parking. I love it.
Right?
We went to park at the yacht.
That's right. Went up to the cliffs and gave us smooch. But I remember having like a real heart to heart with her, being like, is this something I can actually consider? And it seemed like a wild prospect at the time. But my friend Nathan, who played Sweeney that I mentioned earlier, he went on to go to school for it. And so it seemed like a little closer to home, something
Yeah.
possible. The fact that my aunt and uncle were doing it, 6-hour drive away in Indianapolis, made it feel not quite so insane. And then so I just dove into like auditioning for a few programs and got into the University of Evansville, which is a beautiful little diamond in the rough program down in Southern Indiana. And,
is that BA or BFA?
It was a BFA.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and they're really it's like a liberal arts college, but they market it as a conservatory feeling liberal arts program. So it's really intense, really demanding, and they concentrate on getting their students into really good grad schools. Like the whole first semester of your senior year in acting classes, compiling 10 to 15 monologues to go audition at graduate programs.
That's so amazing, because I know you went to NYU grad, and NYU undergrad does not do that at all,
Yeah. I mean, they're fantastic as well, but they're also like, there were 16 kids in my class in this school, 16 performance majors.
It's more of like a Juilliard.
It's really,
dude, that's awesome. That's cool.
It's great. So that went to NYU after that, and that,
Before we get to NYU, I'm curious, because like there is such a righteous theater scene and comedy if you're into it. Was there ever a moment of like after you graduated from there about thinking about trying the Chicago circuit? Because I know like, obviously now, I don't know if it was then, but like, they have all those Chicago shows and procedurals that shoot there. And
right.
Yeah.
There wasn't quite as much television going on. But I've always wanted to work in the Chicago theater scene. It's I was going in high school when this new passion was developing, and even before, I appreciated the theater there and loved having the city right there. But because the undergrad program was so intensely geared toward a graduate experience just after that was where my focus went. So it
was the program that kind of hardwired you for, okay, I want to do grad school,
Yeah, they're like, we can do this for you, we can prepare you this far. It's a lot about the program's a lot about developing the person and the artist, and saying, there's another realm of training that's perhaps a little more practically centered that will more efficiently usher you into a professional world. Wow. So it's not necessarily true for everybody, so I don't mean to advertise that as the only way to go.
No, but, I know. I've done the grad school circuit. Did you do the big three, like NYU, Juilliard, and Yale, or what did you do?
I auditioned for NYU and Juilliard and Yale and UCSD and ACT, and then did the ERDA's audition, which is where you go in front of just a shitload of people. Yeah. And then so I interviewed like 8 schools out of all those. There was
first year, first try.
What was that?
This is first year, first try. Like the first round of.
Yeah. So yes, yeah. So senior year of my undergrad, we all like piled into some vans and went up to Chicago to hit all these auditions, all these schools that were coming into audition for a weekend. So it was pretty intense.
And obviously you got called back at NYU. Did you consider any other ones or go further?
I also got into UCSD, which has a really amazing program, which is now run by a buddy of mine, Richard Robichaux, who is the finest of fellows. But NYU felt like the right fit.
Yeah,
I have a lot more debt because of that choice. So
hey, me too, man.
Yeah. I don't know how right of a call that was, but I have that the alumni system, or the connection of both those programs, Evansville and NYU, has stood me in really good stead throughout my professional years. So,
what year were you?
I graduated NYU in 2004.
So were you there with like Glenn Fleshler or David Costabile?
Just after Glenn and Costi.
What about Michael C. Hall? Was that?
No, that was further ago. My wife went to the program just before I did, so she was there with Costi, I think.
Got it. David and Glenn are friends.
Nice. Yes.
Yeah, that's great awesome, fellows. Man. So talk to me. For the actors listening. I know we kind of just briefly touched on it, but for people listening, and I'm sorry, this is like a deep question, but could you kind of, in the easiest way, explain the difference between undergrad and grad and the benefits of grad? Because that's something I explore a lot with actors that do graduate
Yeah.
programs on this, and it can be specific to you. You don't have to speak like this. You know what I mean? Like, what do you think is, for those listening, once you have a BFA from an undergrad, what do you think makes worth going further to get that MFA?
Yeah, obviously I can only really speak to my experience. So because one undergrad program to the next will set you up differently for the next step. I was set up very well in terms of what it sort of meant to be a truthful storyteller, or the Evansville program is very geared toward authenticity and do a lot of gritty plays at the South and all that kind of stuff. And NYU offered some more technical elements, really kind of stripped down the actor as an instrument, while at the same time being centered in a pursuit of play, playfulness.
Yeah.
So really kind of letting the craft inform a sense of adventure and tied into authenticity and stuff, but really broke me down a lot. Not in the old school way you hear, where you're
you break you down to build you up.
But just like, you really start to examine every nuance of the performative endeavor. And that really served me. I mean, I'm fairly certain that at the end of NYU, I was a worse actor than I was when I started at NYU.
But
because I was just sort of, but I think that I'm a better actor now than I would have been had I not gone. So it was sort of a slow burn after the fact. And, part of that is, I think, built on the circumstance of having gone right from undergrad.
Yeah.
There are plenty of people who take time off before going to grad school. The people in my class who had done that had, more solid sense of self, had a bigger understanding of what it meant to be in the world, and how they could use the training to serve that. I was, had gone through school my whole life. And so I was still a little of the mind that you satisfy the teacher or you get the grade, right? Not that I was a grade hound, but in terms of owning the training for myself, there were people who knew about what that meant better than I did, because they'd taken some time off. And I have friends who went right from undergrad, and their first 3 years out of school sort of served a similar purpose. You really learn in the pursuit, no matter where you go. So I'm hardly of the mind that it's required. But I think it can be a really useful thing if you feel like it's speaks to you.
Totally. That's so beautiful. Thank you for answering that. And when you did the showcase, did you get rep from the NYU's grad showcase?
I just laugh just thinking about those days, because those are insane days.
I'm sure, man.
And it's a real dog and pony show. They trot you out into a circle, you show your teeth, and they sort of say that one or that one, and everybody loses their minds a little bit. I mean, it's a great service, truly.
Is it monologues for the showcase, or what do you get?
NYU is like 2 scenes.
Got it.
Everyone does 2 scenes. And we did ours with UCSD and UC Irvine, I think.
Okay.
But I got repped by joined up with Laurie Swift.
Sweet 180.
AJ.
Yeah.
That was before Sweet 180. That was I haven't been with her for a while now, but she was lovely and sort of a perfect entree into the whole thing. I went through some good, gnarly years with her. She was great.
Oh, that's great, man. I'm curious, like so many people, when I went to NYU, people just all of a sudden, not even having gone to grad, or like, I want to go to LA. When you graduated, getting rep, did you want to stay in New York? Did you think about Chicago? Like, where was your head at?
Um, I think LA felt a little too beyond my grasp at that time.
Yeah.
I excuse me. I didn't have, my showcase didn't go great out there. So and I think I let that inform me a little too
Mm.
much about. But you know, NYU had a I think still has a good relationship with the public theater. So the grad students get to come in to audition for Shakespeare in the Park.
Wow.
So right out of grad school, I went into the non-equity ensemble for Much Ado About Nothing in the Park, which is one of the best fucking places to work theater in New York City
The
or
dream.
in the world. It's
Yeah.
incredible. And I've been unfortunate to work there a few times since. So I was sort of immediately pulled into the New York experience to a certain degree. Uh, I was I was also dating a classmate at the time who stayed in the
Wow.
city, and so that kept me there as well. But you know, I was also I had been in New York for 3 years,
Yeah.
except for the 2 summers off where I went back to the suburbs to work a job to try and pay for as much of
Okay.
the next year as possible.
Yeah.
And uh, grad school was like it's like 8 or 9 a.m. until 11 at night,
Yeah. It's so
6
intense.
days a week. So I didn't really enter New York in a certain way. I didn't really enter the city until after I graduated. So, you know, it was a whole new era of experiencing New York and finding my feet and
Yeah.
discovering what I meant within that context. Um, so it felt like I was going somewhere new anyway, in some
Totally.
regard.
It's like you finally get to experience the city because you're so busy in that theater and those black boxes because that's what grad school's for. And then
Right.
now you finally get to have that New York experience. Was there a second where you just allowed yourself to have fun maybe for a second and enjoy the city or
That first summer in the park, uh,
ah
really, absolutely. You know, I was still working hard, but you know, it's like it's like summer camp. You go
yeah
out every night and that you just fuck around, and then you take the work really seriously, and then but it's so joyful, and that production felt particularly joyful. So that yeah, I had definitely had some fun.
wow
And then
and
was unemployed, so
yeah
I that's a different kind of fun.
and for for you going from undergrad to grad to like essentially being in the gate to a gig to then all of a sudden real life, how was that transition for you? Because I know that can be so tough. People graduate, they get a job, they get a movie, they get Shakespeare in the Park, and then they don't work for 2 years, so how did you
Yeah,
adjust?
it was well, I did the park, and then I got a commercial agent and booked the first commercial I auditioned for, which was like the Bud Light's replacement campaign for WhatsApp. It was like going to be their next
Oh, the
big
frog thing. Yeah,
thing. Yeah, it
yeah,
wasn't for
yeah.
that, but it was like for their next big thing. And so you know, I was like, I got this, no sweat.
This is back
And
in the SAG commercial days, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and I was like, oh, this is gonna pay for this guy. This is gonna be gold, and like it just never went anywhere. And I don't think I ever booked another commercial after that. And then I didn't work for another 7 months or so. Um, so I think it was a good kind of awakening. You
Yeah.
come out of grad school feeling pretty cocky,
Yeah, I'm sure.
and especially if you're like working at the public with these
Of course. Oscar
amazing,
Eustace, yeah.
exactly, and
Tony
it's like
Kushner's over there. Yeah,
exactly,
yeah, yeah.
and and then you book the commercial, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna be, the next face of Bud Light.
And then you get a catering job.
Right. Oh God.
So
But it's
what?
good, and that's not the last time I experienced a kind of humbling, which is, I think, a really important part of the experience of the professional world. But it was useful early on. It put me in my place a little bit. It gave me a little perspective, and I was very fortunate to have a built-in community within the city.
Yeah.
So, it could have been. I landed more softly than I might have otherwise.
And what, even in that period, what, for those listening, what did you do survival wise? Did you get a temp job? Did you do hospitality? Like, what were your steps?
I went back. I was uh, carpentry was my main survival
Oh,
job. So I worked.
so was
I worked.
Constable.
Oh, is that right? I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
yeah, that's what he
Oh no
did.
shit.
Yeah, yeah.
Right on. Yeah. Uh, which is was great. I think served me well. It's I find it very therapeutic. And so I worked. I actually worked in the NYU undergrad prop shop for
Wow.
a while. I worked at a couple scene shops around town. Uh, I worked at um, Dennis O'Hare's husband, Hugh. He is a contractor. They're no longer in the city, but like I helped them renovate a house.
Wow.
Uh, um,
So you didn't
and
have to
I
do
also
the
did.
horrible nightmare of like waiting tables. You were
No, I did
you
that. I got rid of that. I did that in my undergrad and graduate summers
got it.
at the TGI Fridays in my
Uh,
Chicago suburb.
Shout out Fridays.
Yes, yes, Fridays.
Yeah.
I was there from the transition from Flair into tasteful black polo. The
Wow.
heady days, heady days.
Love that,
Um,
man. And
yeah. I
when so
also
that
worked. Oh, this is interesting. I also, well, maybe not interesting, but I also worked at my very close friend Jeff Galfer, who's another fucking brilliant actor and creator. He had got a job at a PR firm called LaForce and Stevens, and so he got me a job there. We were like office gophers working on their storage floor, putting together like samples of high end clothing that stylists would come and pick up to take to their photo shoots, and we got to take all these free samples and stuff.
yeah.
It was kind of a great job too. I did like a photo shoot a couple months ago, um, and the stylist came in with his clothes, and he's like, "Hey, the people at LaForce and Stevens say, hey, they're really happy that you're on this side of things now."
No
it was a
way.
real, it was a real whiplash moment. Kind of beautiful, but they were good to me early on. So I was, I definitely had some pretty bleak financial
Yeah.
periods, but by and large, was able to find work that was at least semi interesting.
And did Rory start, sending you on the co-star and the guest star circuit? Is that, you know?
Not as much. I don't think I was here and there. I was more theater I was auditioning for. I
Interesting.
did an understudy on Broadway about a year after I graduated.
For what production?
It was a production called Brooklyn Boy, Darnell
Okay.
Margulies' play, and understudied Kevin Isola, who's another brilliant actor. Got to go on, had my Broadway debut for one night.
Oh man.
It was that was pretty fun. But I also on that job, what was really significant about that job is there were, obviously several understudies of various ages, and some understudy jobs you get to leave as soon as the curtain's up. This is one of the ones where they put us all up in the top floor dressing room until the person we were covering was finished with their track, just in case something happened mid show. So there were like six of us who were hanging out, 6 days a week, and some of the older actors, had like families. They had like a small cabin out of the city that they would go to on weekends with their kids, and it was a really beautiful discovery, a real concrete evidence that acting was not the glitz and the glam. You
Yeah.
see the part you see of the experience is so narrow,
Yeah.
but it's actually built up. The foundation is just like a lot of blue collar workers who are just kind of jobbing
Totally.
and making their lives work. And maybe you never hear about them, but they're the fucking lifeblood, and it is totally satisfying,
Yeah.
and a beautiful way to go. So I find that very comforting and inspiring.
That's beautiful, man.
Yeah.
I love that. And so when you got done with that, then did you start to, tell her you wanted to do more film and TV, or were you just content with whatever work came your way?
Uh, it took a long time for me to ask for what I wanted, I
Yeah.
think. Um,
Did you know what you want?
No, I mean, part of me was content to kind of just see what came.
Yeah.
I think you find out pretty early on that here's what I did. It's the default position if you're an actor is like you are waiting for someone to want you, right? Or that you can fall into that. Your experience is predicated on other people's ideas. That is a terrible position to be in. So I was fortunate to have really active creator friends and starting theater companies and doing shows. So I did a lot of like off stuff for no money with friends and writers and various groups, and would, anytime somebody asked me to do a workshop or do whatever, which because of my alumni communities was a lot of people, I said yeah. And I think at first I was like, oh, I gotta stay available if this comes along and that comes along, but
Yeah.
I pretty quickly discovered that if I was able to claim some space in the world, that would serve me, and my experience of it would be far more empowering. I'd feel, that I had a place in it all. And I think that discovering that attitude early on served me really well through even the bleaker times. And then when I got a theater job, I was really happy with it. It's sort of an extra bonus when I got paid for it, right? So I did like a couple regional gigs, and it wasn't until I moved out to LA to follow a girl that that attitude, or that sort of that method of saying yes and participating, even if it seemed like maybe not fancy or maybe like or difficult to make work financially. That's when it actually started coming to fruition in a different way. It served me in a lot of ways without any kind of financial benefit. But I got out there, and it's a friend. It's not long after you get out there, you move to LA, and it takes a few months
We're
to
talking
realize
like just timeline, like 2007-ish.
2007, exactly
Yeah.
right, 2007.
Yeah.
And so once I realized I wasn't on vacation, and after the girl dumped me, a friend invited me to come to go see the Brown Graduate School Showcase.
Oh, wow.
And I was not in a happy place. I was like, that sounds fucking miserable. But I went out, and was glad I did. It was, they were great. And I ran into Bonnie Grissom, who's a casting director who a few years prior had worked in Pat McCorkle's office. She's a casting director here in New York.
Best, yeah.
And I was a reader for Bonnie a lot for their auditions, which for those who don't know is when you just go in and you're the person behind the camera reading the scenes with the people who come in to actually audition for the piece. So I got to know them in that office pretty well. Well, Bonnie had moved out to LA, and she was at that showcase, and we ran into each other. She's like, hey, I'm working at Center Theater Group now. We're looking to fill this little role in a new play. Come back, not in a new play, in a play called Come Back Little Sheba, a classic play. And can you come in, like tomorrow? And so I jumped into that, and I got the part, and was like working in one of the really good theaters out in LA. And because of that, then met this casting director who put me in a 2-episode guest star of The Closer, which is my first.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Which was a really amazing experience, like a really good role. I dove right in.
And this was peak procedural time. Like, this is when procedurals were like the thing,
Yeah.
Yeah. Didn't you do numbers as well in like NCIS?
That was my numbers was my first one. That was my first little co-star, 2-line experience, and then came Closer, which was like this 2-episode like central arc. It was freaky.
And that must have felt cool being in LA doing that, because like, everyone in LA is an actor, and no one is doing 2 episodes on The Closer, No,
I was insanely lucky. And the showrunner of that, James Duff, he took me under his wing, and Lori had not come out to. She was a New York agent, and I didn't really jive with the LA office, and so James found me a better agent in LA, and really shepherded me through. That brought more television work
Yeah.
through. Um, Hell, it even came. It tracks all the way to last year. Well, I guess a couple years ago. So I'm doing playing Mickey Donovan. It's John Boyd's character in the Ray Donovan
Ray
series.
Donovan. Yeah.
Yeah, I played. They do some flashbacks in the last season. I played a young Mickey Donovan, and then I'm now doing the same, reprising the role in the feature film, which is finishing off the series. Comes out next year,
Yeah.
and it's really amazing job. And I got that primarily because Jim Leonard, who is a writer who's an Evansville alum from before my time, but
No
also
way.
worked on The Closer, then became a writer and executive producer on Ray Donovan. And the first episode featuring young Mickey was directed by Kira Sedgwick. And because of that Closer episode I had done a decade prior, like I got this other job, which turned into this other fantastic thing. So, and I completely tie it directly back to
Yeah.
the the drier days, the days of famine, where I was like, just go forward, say yes. You don't be too proud or
Yeah.
snobby about anything. Just grab opportunity where you can. So
It's so beautiful. Thank you for
yeah.
sharing that, man. And so while you were in LA and you had all these jobs coming in, did you want to stay? Because obviously things were going well, like were you?
Yeah. I was having a really good time there. I had some of my oldest friends are out there. Work was going great. It was definitely some challenging times as well. But
Yeah.
uh, I mean, I still 95% of the worldly goods I owned in 2009 when I came back to New York are still in my buddy's barn in the Santa Monica Mountains, because I came back to New York for a job thinking I was going to go right back to LA. I
Wow.
never left the city. And I love going back. I've been working there, going back and forth a bit recently as well. So I love the city, but or I love LA, but yeah, fate kind of dragged me back east.
And can you mention what job it was that brought you back or?
That was a show called The Orphan's Home Cycle. We started in
Okay.
Hartford Stage and went to Signature Theater. It's a 9-hour play, written by Horton Foote.
Okay.
He did like Trip to Bountiful, Pulitzer play. Also was an Oscar-winning movie. He did the screen adaptation of To Kill a Mockingbird.
Wow.
He is a really, really prolific, significant American writer. He's sort of known as the American
Yeah.
Chekhov. He has a series of 9 plays that chronicle his father's life from age 11 to 39, and Hartford Stage and Signature Theater commissioned him to condense these 9 full-length plays into 50-minute one acts,
Yeah.
and then slam them together to tell the whole cycle. So it was this really kind of major event within New York's theater world, and I that sort of happened in similar fashion to what I was describing earlier. But so I came back east to play this central character from like age 19 to 39, and through 9 hours of theater
Wow.
for 10 months. And the woman playing opposite me is now my wife. So we sort of in the play,
Fell in
meet and
love.
court and
Yeah.
marry and have kids. So we sort of had this whole rehearsal for our next decade together in the first year of knowing each other. And I just kept getting work that kept me here. And yeah, it was a major turning point and a real gift.
That's so beautiful, man. I'm so like,
Yeah.
it just goes to show you staying humble and doing a good job and showing up. And, even despite there being lulls that, do just being a good guy, work begets work and good energy
Yeah.
begets good people. And I'm so proud of you, man. That's incredible.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, you hope. You try.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, obviously we're here to talk about, I know what you did last summer. So, I one day come back and we'll dig credit by credit, but let's talk about it. How did this come your way?
film and TV had started gearing back up.
Yeah.
So I was in LA for a couple months doing a show called The Old Man, which will wrap up next year. So we had a little Zoom conversation there, and then I thought that was it. And then a month later, got a call from my agent say, "Hey, do you want to move to Hawaii in 4 weeks after the holidays are over?"
Wow.
And
what island?
Oahu.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, what a dream.
It was incredible.
Yeah.
And it was the safest place at the time. New York with pandemic was really rough, and because of my kids were schooling remotely, so I got to bring my whole family out, which is unusual. So we were all out there, and yeah, it was for 4.5 months. It was incredible.
Was that your first time in Hawaii?
It was.
Wow. And was it just amazing?
It completely lives up to expectations. Yes. Wow. And we got there, about in January. Once spring breaks happened, there was some more tourism picking up, but especially because of the pandemic, the island was empty of any tourism. So we just had the run of the place. We spent the first week before we found a house that we stayed in for the time. We spent the production put us up for like a week in a Waikiki hotel, which is sort of the Times Square of Honolulu. And, it's the most crowded beach. It's beautiful, but it's just packed generally. Yeah. And it was desolate. There was like no one there. We had the run of the place to ourselves. The water was crystal clear. And a month later, I was asking one of the locals who was a background actor. We were just talking. And I was like, it was amazing. What's it been like without this influx of tourists? It's like kind of had the island back to ourselves. Like I can go surf Waikiki now, and the water's not cloudy with sunscreen, and sure enough, we went back to Waikiki Beach to get my kids some surf lessons, and the water was all milky and it was just overrun and still beautiful. But we had this 2-month period, which was just idyllic. We had the whole place to ourselves.
So it's a job you'll never forget, man. That's
it's incredible.
And was it fun? Because it shows that the horror thriller genre tend to be, you get to have fun with it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, search the darkness of the soul.
That's awesome.
Splatter some blood on your face. Yeah, wow, that was good time.
It's cool having it out in the world now. I think you one more episode left, right?
I think it's 6 tonight, or 6 just came out today.
Yeah,
today's Friday. I don't know when this is coming out. Today's Friday the 29th.
Yeah.
So there'll be maybe by the time this goes up, 2 more coming out once Friday. But it's been fun seeing people enjoy it.
Yeah, man, you're so great in it. It's so fun, and it's just such a cool character, man. And it's cool, because so much of a show I think people undervalue is the environment. So you feel the Pacific, just that the Hawaii. It's kind of weird because the White Lotus, same thing. You really feel that, right. And it sets a really interesting atmosphere for everything that's happening. And it's nice to fuck up some natural beauty.
Bit,
totally, man. Yeah,
with murder, not with actually hurting the environment. With murder. Yes,
touche. But what's next in store for you, man? A few fun questions here.
The Ray Donovan finale film comes out sometime in the first quarter of 2022, which is what I heard. So, January to March, sometime next year. And it's really the material is really good. Those creators are really excellent. So I think that'll be pretty great. Small Town Wisconsin will hopefully get distribution before too long. I'll go out to I got The Lock and Key just came out, Netflix show that I was a part of in the first season, a little bit the second season, and a little more in the third season. I'm not sure when that'll come out, sometime within the next 6 months, I would imagine. And then I go back to shoot, or I did another thing for Rachel's company, Brosnahan, did a podcast called The Miranda Obsession.
Oh. Rachel's one of my best friends. We met.
Oh, you're kidding?
Yeah, she was the first. We're each other's first friend we made at NYU. Yeah,
I love that. She's the best. And she grew up we grew up a town away from each other. In Chicago suburb.
Oh, that's right.
She's Highland Park.
Yeah, Highland Park.
Yeah, I rehearsed a play at her high school. I know her theater director.
That's so funny, man.
Yeah.
I'll message her now after this.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
you,
Give
me,
her
and
my love.
Rachel will all have to hang, man.
Done,
This is awesome,
done. Love it.
dude.
That's
Love your
fantastic.
energy. But man, final few
um,
questions.
yeah.
Would you go back to theater now that we're kind of entering hopefully the continuation of Broadway coming back to
Yeah,
life? Is that
for
something that
sure.
you're still interested in?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, one of the things that drew me to the profession in the first place was the variety of experience it allows. And there's get everything gives you something different. It allows you to offer something different. Um, so I came up in the theater. I'm a deep lover of the theater. The New York theater community, as you well know, is very small and
Yeah.
familial. Absolutely, I hope to do something before too long.
And for all the actors listening, I know this is a loaded question, but when things got dark and work wasn't coming in, and it didn't seem like you know anything was going to happen, any words of wisdom for the people in that place right now?
You know, um, I remember early on, a fair amount of people I knew, including myself, being like afraid to leave town for a vacation or to see someone or for whatever reason, for fear of missing an audition or missing that shot. And it's true. A lot of one's success within the industry is predicated on chance,
Yeah.
being in the right place at the right time. So I completely understand that fear. Um, but it always struck me as a bit sad. And usually I would, see people who made that choice regret it, or uh, you just got I would get a sense that they were missing out on something,
Yeah.
even though they were trying to not miss out on something. So this is not I'm not suggesting people leave town if they don't want to
Yeah.
leave town. But my point is like, invest in your life. It's easy to obsess about the industry, the business, to like do everything you can at every moment to be ready. And it's important to work your ass off for sure. If you don't work your ass off, you're sunk. But if you're not investing primarily in your life and what that means outside of the industry and who you are in the world writ large, then not only will you be fucking miserable, but you'll be a withered artist.
Yeah.
The whole point, the center intention of our job is to bring the life of the human experience, to distill it for people so they can see what it is about, so we can understand ourselves better, so we can learn to communicate and connect. And if you are not experiencing your humanity within the rest of the world and just so singular focus, you're missing out, and you don't know what you're doing. Like, you're missing the point. So it's tough. It gets gnarly, and when I got a couple small things coming up, and I'm still like, oh, is it going to be enough? There's that
Yeah.
part of me that really gets, they're like, all right, well, that's it. I've peaked. It's over.
Yeah.
But I am very fortunate to have a wife and two kids who I'm obsessed with, and extended family, and a
Yeah.
desire for travel, and that has,
A life outside of acting.
yeah, and
Yeah.
that is far better than any one job. That has pulled me through the hard times.
That's so
Um,
beautiful. Thank you for
uh,
sharing that. And I needed to hear that today for my own actor brain. But dude, you, me, and Rachel, we should get a project going. We should all hang out, man. Bill,
Love it.
dude, I love your energy. Thank you for coming on,
Thanks,
man.
man.
This was
Back at you. It's been a pleasure.
a real honor to have you as my first guest back. And thank you for taking the time. It really does mean so much to me, man. I really love speaking with you, and let's do this again sometime.
I'd love to. Thanks, man. I'm glad the pup is back home.
Oh, thank you so much, brother.
Yeah.
Rock and roll. Take care of the fam, okay?
Thanks, brother.